I'm Al McFarland. This is The Conversation with Al McFarland. I'm talking with Coach Leah Jean Denley, who is a sports editor for Inside News. And we're also joined by two of my regular colleagues in Dugu, Yusuf Mjini and Jonathan Palmer. And we want to pivot now to other topics that are trending in the world today. One, I pulled up an article from a website called The Conversation, and the headline says, another example of U.S. politicians spearing Haiti and Haitian immigrants. Let me read a little of that. This was published today, September 17th at 8:32 this morning. And the article is written by Nathan Dees, who's assistant professor of French arts, sciences at Washington University in St. Louis. There's an image that says "Make Pets Safe Again." You've probably seen it already, but it's AI image of Donald Trump sort of running with two kittens in his hands, each arm, and two black guys chasing him. So that's the story. The cut line on the photograph says a man in Tucson, Arizona carries an AI-generated image referencing falsehoods spread by Donald Trump and his running mate about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. And so that image is actually inside of a poster that a protester, a MAGA guy, is carrying. Let me read a part of it, and then I'll ask my colleagues to respond. Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance continues to defend the false claim that migrants in Springfield, Ohio, have been abducting and eating area cats and dogs. That outlandish idea has been since former President Donald Trump repeatedly raised it as an anti-immigrant talking point in the September presidential debate. Trump never mentioned where the migrants allegedly eating the pets came from, but many viewers understood it as a reference to Haitians, a population that Trump has previously. Debate moderator David Muir stated in his real-time fact check, there is no evidence that or consumed. NPR and other media outlets have also declared the rumor, which began with local right-wing advocates and officials in Springfield, decrying the city's disorganized response to an influx of Haitian migrants in recent years, to be false. Well, it goes on, and we'll be publishing the story in next week's edition of Inside News. But Yusuf, Jonathan, Coach Leah, when you hear this Haitian, they're eating dogs and cats, what comes to mind, and what do we do about it? Jonathan, you're unmuted. Go ahead and start.
The first problem is anytime the 80s sitcom show Alf is trending, you know that there's something way out of left field and weird.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Alf was a show. It stood for Alien Life Form. It was about a small furry alien with kind of orangish wavy hair who would always try to eat the family cat. On his planet, cats were what they ate. So when this totally unsubstantiated rumor arose, that started bringing back the memes about that show. And so if you go over to any of the social media, Alf is trending, which is not something you expect to see. This is just the same old, let's paint black and brown people as boogeymen and come up with all sorts of scary stories so we can scare the base into supporting, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance actually said the quiet part out loud on a CNN interview with Dana Bash, where he went ahead and basically admitted that if he has to make up stories in order to get people to care about the issues. So Dana caught him in that quick, and they've tried to recover from that. But it just shows that within that area, in that group, everything has gone out the window, and they're using racism and they're using the xenophobia to go ahead and try to stir up their base. And what has led to real world consequences of, I think it's like 33 bomb threats being called in. They've had to close down schools, close down City Hall. A lot of groups are either working or participating remotely. And yet, at the same time, they're calling for uh, a ceasing of the democratic rhetoric, but nothing that has to be done about their own rhetoric, which has real world consequences.
Let me share a little more before you come in, Yusuf, on this. This is the same article. One of the subheads on it was historical reference to, quote unquote, the so-called unfitness of Haitians to govern themselves. And that's kind of in the background of the American attitude about Black.
You were frozen for a second. Go ahead.
Got frozen. We'll try it again. So the article says that in July of 1915, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson invaded and economic stability following the assassination of Haitian President Vilbrun Guillaume Sam. 5 years into what will become a 19-year military occupation, an American diplomat and civil rights leader, James Weldon Johnson, was sent by the NAACP to investigate the supposed benefits of the occupation. His resounding takeaway: the United States has failed Haiti. So in related pieces for The Nation and the Crisis, Johnson chronicled abuses ranging from extrajudicial killings of Haitian citizens. And he says that U.S. forces killed 15,000 Haitians between 1915 and 1934. And the abuses included harassment and rape of Haitian women. Johnson said that the U.S. occupation amounted to nothing more than a belief in the unfitness of Haitian people to govern themselves. So there's a history here. Yusuf, what about this from your point of view?
Well, a couple of things, Al. Number one, the Haitian Revolution was the only successful revolt by enslaved people in this hemisphere. And it led to Napoleon exiting this hemisphere entirely. It was responsible for the Louisiana Purchase, in which everything west of the Mississippi River, including a suburb of the capital city of St. Paul, also known as Minneapolis, from the Mississippi River all the way to the Rocky Mountains, from the Canadian border to the Gulf of Mexico, were sold to the United States because Napoleon wanted nothing to do with this hemisphere after the whooping the French took in Haiti. And 200 years later, while the Haitians were paying reparations to France for the lost revenue of the plantation owners who exited promptly to the United States, where they began breeding Africans as enslaved people, the Prime Minister of France was invited to attend the 200th anniversary of the Haitian Revolution and said, oh no, I'm sorry, the pain is still too great. We will not be attending, because of the suffering that we have endured. So Trump's reference to illegal aliens and building a wall at the border and talking about Springfield in particular was a dog whistle, as Jonathan pointed out, for Black people from Haiti, 15,000 who are migrants who work in the factories in Springfield. And the standard bearers for the GOP in the president and vice presidential race, unfortunately, have done everything except claim that Willie Horton has been paroled to Springfield. They're pulling out all the stops. And unfortunately for Republicans, it is backfiring because people are wondering, why do we have to stoop to such minstrelsy on the part of Trump and Vance to claim that people's cats and dogs are being eaten by Haitian migrants? And 6 public schools are closed in Springfield today because of bomb threats. And the National Guard has been called in. The Proud Boys have shown up and are waving their banners all over town, trying to call attention to this misinformation. So It's a dog whistle. It's misinformation. It's an outright lie, and it's very destructive. The weaponization of the fears of the American people, and all based on the only two platforms that Trump has gained any traction are immigration and the economy. And Springfield is driving the immigration platform at this point in time. Two brief announcements. This is the fall membership drive for KFAI, and listeners who would like to join KFAI and become members can do so by calling 612-375-9030. The other thing, today is National Voter Registration Day, and your vote is your voice. And if you don't register to vote, you can get, email voting began mail-in balloting began this week in Minnesota. You can vote by mail. You can call the Election Bureau and request a mail-in ballot. You can go to the Election Bureau and vote in person. If you don't trust the U.S. Postal Service, we had all of that drama during the 2020 election where they said that mailboxes were being raided, that Republican ballots were being destroyed. Go to the Election Bureau and cast your vote in person if you prefer, or call the Secretary of State's office or the Election Bureau and request that a mail-in ballot be mailed to you at your home. Fill out the form. You can also do it online by going to the Secretary of State's office. So register to vote and support KFAI FM community radio in South Minneapolis. And hey, go for it.
Well, the number to call, 612-375-9030, 612-375-9030, and operators are standing by right now to take your call, take your pledge and your contribution. Support the station, support this show, become a member and a supporter of KFAI. Well, back to the question of Haitians. So, the summary of the article I read said this is a very old pattern, embarking about cats and dogs in Springfield. Trump, Vance, and their right-wing supporters are spreading the same kind of anti-Haitian rhetoric that has sown a harmful distrust of Haitian migrants for over a century. Quote, this is not the first time that we Haitians have been the victims of Yan Campé Manti, which is a Haitian colloquialism for, the campaign of lies, that from the Ministry of Haitians Living Abroad in a press release that followed the debate. And that phrase was Haitian Creole, again, a phrase that meant a campaign of lies. And it said that the result of such misinformation is mistreatment, hatred, misunderstanding in the interest of politics. Well, here's the deal, Yusef, Leah, Jonathan. At any given moment, you or me or John, Yusef, you, me, or Jonathan, or Coach Lee could be walking down a street anywhere in this country or on a bus or in a public building, and somebody who is deranged could figure that we look like Haitians. And then we now have been targeted by xenophobic fear, irrational insanity. And that's why none of us who are African Americans can afford to take this lightly. Just like you said, the schools are being shut down, public institutions being secured because of bomb threats. That same danger, nobody knows, Jonathan, unless you speak. If you're Haitian or not, Yusef, you could be Haitian. Leah, I'm Al McFarland. I'm a Caribbean, I could be Haitian. And the point is, this conversation, this train of thought, sets up unstable people to do irrational, crazy things. That's part of the MAGA initiative. What do you think, Jonathan?
I think you're spot on. I want to draw a little bit of a history thread into this, because what is fascinating about how the rhetoric against immigrants has gone is the tie-in to slavery, to the French, and to racism. So you have as Yusuf said, only successful slave revolt to throw off and take over the country. And you can see when you look at Haiti and the Dominican Republic, which share the same island, the difference between their progression in history. But in Haiti, you have them casting off the French and going ahead and establishing their own area and their own country, and then the kind of blockade
paying reparations.
Like that. I'm sorry?
Paying reparations to
Yes.
France.
Yes. A lot of people, then the next piece about that is this whole anti-immigration against Mexico and Mexican immigrants. A lot of people confuse Cinco de Mayo with being Mexican independence, and it's not. It is the celebration of the victory of the Battle of Puebla, which was the Mexican capital. Napoleon had sent French troops in there to conquer Mexico in order to bolster the support of the Confederacy. So they were going to support the Confederacy in the Civil War by coming up through the South and through Mexico. And they were defeated by the Mexican army, which included former enslaved people who had escaped to Mexico and joined up and became part of that. So what you have is you have two groups that have both defeated the French, have both cast off the bonds of slavery, and have stood against racism, and are both now the targets of the MAGA movement, of the anti-immigrant movement. We're not talking about Canada. Nobody is complaining about the Eastern European blacks coming in here. The immigrants that get targeted, the immigrants that gets highlighted, are black and brown people that stood against slavery. So there's an interesting historical trend that gets passed down, and I'm sure many of the people who are part of the MAGA movements don't know this history. They just know that they were told these are the bad ones and hate them. But it all has a deep root in history.
Yusuf?
Well, I want to give people an assignment, Al. If you really would like to learn more about Haiti, there are two books, and you can get either or both used like new on Amazon or on the internet. The first is entitled The Black Jacobins, and it's by Dr. C.L.R. James, and it is a fascinating and accurate history of Haiti. The second is a contemporary book published in this century by Randall Robinson, who was the founder of Trans Africa. And the title of Randall Robinson's book is Haiti, An Unending Agony. And it is so fascinating. It contains information that none of the networks have shared about historical and contemporary struggles for self-determination in Haiti. The Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James, or Haiti, An Unending Agony by Randall Robinson. And either or both of those books will blow the top of your head off with historical accuracy and inspiration. I mean, you won't find a more resilient example of African people standing up and straightening their backs for hundreds of years. They're incredible books, and they're easy reads too. Go get them.
Coach Leah, thoughts, impressions? You're in Houston, I believe, right? And Houston is emerging as a more and more international and more Afro-international community. Lots of Caribbean and West African people there. Also Asian populations that have skyrocketed over the years. So someone was telling me that whites make up only 36% of Houston's population. So people of color are the majority. That's number one. And because that is the case, the white power brokers, those who control the state, the legislative apparatus are doing all they can over time to both block and suppress voting by people of color, Black people in particular, but also to change the rules. For example, if we generally
You're frozen again,
majority
Al.
anymore, what do you do if you're no longer the majority? One of the strategies I'm reading about in Texas is change the decision making, not from the majority electing people to the legislature, but to the decisions made at the county level. And if you organize to have most of the counties gerrymandered so that they all are led by white people, you effectively disenfranchise people who are not white. So, what's the feeling on the street, on the ground there in Texas about immigrants in general, Black and Latino immigrants in particular?
So yeah, spot on. One of the things that this is a personal note. Definitely a culture change for me living here, as opposed to being born and raised in Minnesota. I can go for days in the community and not ever see a person that is a white person. I mean, days, literally. They're planned communities, and we're talking affluent suburban communities, and they're of people of color in these planned communities in the city. Um, and so, it's not, and it's absolutely about being brown and Black, and the opportunity to be quote unquote, to your point earlier, thought of as somebody other than an African American. For me, especially with my hair looking like this, I could very well be anything other than African American. And but it's something that I love. I mean, I love the fact that there is so many different cultures and so many different people living together, and it is very scary for the people that are not of color, our Caucasian brothers and sisters. It's very scary knowing that in this particular environment you're not the majority, and so the things that you would try to and so it at every turn you're going to try to maintain some type of power, right? And so what I've seen is, even though I'm in a blue county, the entire state is red, right? And so now you are looking at what are ways that we can suppress, and try to do to have voter suppression at the 10th degree. I was at a family reunion for my husband, who was from Columbus, Texas, this weekend, a small town in Colorado County. And during the and what I said during what I was saying to the family was, oral history is so important, and they were talking about the ancestors that have gone before them and so on and so forth. But one of the cousins spoke up and said, we got to vote. And he went on this whole spiel about how to make sure that everybody in the family voted. If there was never a more important time to vote, it was right now. And so I had a question for him, and I said, do you find that there is more voter suppression in the urban areas or the rural communities? And he said, oh, for sure, it's more prevalent in the rural communities, and it's a lot easier to suppress the vote. And that is probably one of the main reasons why the state as a whole is red, because you've got people of color everywhere in the entire state of Texas. But if you're able to successfully scare the people of color, suppress the vote, make it very difficult to vote, and so I just shrugged my shoulders, and you just want to just throw up both hands, you know what I'm saying? But speaking about that, and Yusuf, you were talking about, today is the National Day of for voter registration. It's so important that you don't just register, that you actually go vote. it's you can be, I don't want to say pressured, but sequestered into making sure that you vote, making sure that you register, making sure that your registration is actually still valid, and then don't go to the poll. And so that's not helping. And not just vote for the president, vote for every single person on the ballot.